So we're going to talk about the global conflict that is on our doorsteps, whether we're going to have, what's the resolution, right? We're going to analyze Putin, NATO, the West, what's going on, and see what the future might hold for us based on our analysis of the facts that are present. The one thing that startles me that we should bear in mind is that the pipeline between Germany, the natural gas Nord Stream 2, was blown up in like three separate places, and we still don't even know who that is. That's really the scale of where we're at, right? In the world. Now, on the news, you hear a lot of, the Ukrainian counteroffensive. That's obviously not the full story. You don't get the full story. You don't even know the full story. I don't even got time in my day to give you the full story and the circumstances as they are. But when you see facts like Nord Stream, a pipeline being blown up, and you don't know which country even did it, they're blaming Russia, which doesn't even make sense because that's their own pipeline. It's like me shooting myself in my own foot. Germany wouldn't do it either unless they might have a right-winger over there that might be going crazy. A right-wing sect that wants to separate from Russia and blew up that pipeline because they're sick of it. Some politics. It could be somebody in Poland. They sent that out because they have a conflict with Germany and they're sandwiched between Germany and Belarus and all this other stuff. So, what is the major issue? Because what's the main thing that I want to communicate, right? This is the guy that's supposed to be, a NATO chief, okay? And the language, you could tell by the language they're using, they don't want to go deeper into the Russian conflict, but yet they keep sending Ukraine weapons after the fact, which is what boggles my mind about the cowardice of the West. The cowardice of the West, right? It boggles my mind because Putin sees their weakness and then invades Ukraine. Then after he invades, then they say, okay, here's some weapons. Then he starts hitting them with artillery. They're like, okay, here's artillery. Then he hits them with missiles. They're like, okay, here's some anti-air defense. Instead of saying, hey, Putin, if you're going to invade Russia, if you're going to invade Ukraine, we're going to arm them. We're going to give them anti-air defense. We're going to give them missile systems and artillery and everything they need to win the war. They do it $1 a day to watch them starve. That's fucking insane. That means there is no leadership in the West.
Can I ask you whether you agree with...
So what are they doing now? They're still trying to figure out what to provide. You're either going to win the war, my friend, or not. And then the deterrent for... What is NATO saying as the deterrent for the use of nuclear weapons by Putin? There will be a physical response. Isn't it the softest fucking thing you could say? There will be a physical. That's the deterrence. Instead of saying, hey, if you're going to use nuclear weapons, you're going to... Here's a way to get Vladimir Putin to never use nuclear weapons. Say, hey, Vlad, if you're going to use nuclear weapons, Germany, UK, France, Poland... We're going to send every fucking the assassination team, and we're going to fully go to war and have a full response, military response to any use of nuclear weapons anywhere in the European territory. If you say that, yeah, you might have to go to war, but guess what you're probably going to do? You're probably going to back Putin down, which is what you fucking failed to do, and that's why there's 100,000 people dead around the world. So, the moral of the story for today's video is this, right? You see this old woman carrying fucking
salvaging whatever might come.
Salvaging whatever she could use, and these people.
And sadness for the
you see this woman crying in her, in her old age, and all she wanted to do was go to the supermarket and come home, and she probably can't find her cat, can't find her kids, crying in the street. The world has let her down. That's really what it comes down to. How can you have faith? How can you have any hope at this point when the world lets you down? They couldn't stop Putin early, and now they're going tit for tat, and he's in too deep. So will he use nukes? If he's backed into a corner, right? The sense I get is that they're letting Ukraine bleed out, and they're not giving him the proper support because they see Vladimir Putin is not backing down. But Vlad is also exhausted, and so are his troops. All right, we're going to show you this little video I've enjoyed.
We've got this shit for training. Knows what kind of house we're at. 3 armor-piercing cartridges. We're in Svatov, you guys.
So it's a bring-your-own-beer situation in the Russian army. They send them They send them to these areas which they're liberating, which they destroyed. All the pretenses that Putin used to make this invasion are all bullshit. Nobody would ever believe that. Some Russian people, they're liberating them. He failed to buy Ukraine and bribe it to add it into his puppetry like he did Belarusia with some dictator and some scumbag. He failed to do that, and he got pissed, and then he decided to sit here and start this conflict, which he lost. He saw the weakness in the West, and now these guys are sitting in some rundown house that used to be somebody's home. That's now they're practically pissing in the corner and doing God knows what. Young guys, bring your own food with a couple of cartridges, and they're sitting there waiting to die while the Ukrainian army is exhausted, while the West is giving them just enough rope to almost hang themselves without having any final victory. So they've exhausted Russia and they've exhausted Ukraine. Ukraine is set back 30, 40 years. That old woman with her cane is never going to see the same country again. She's got nowhere to go, nothing to do. She's growing old, right? People are just, it's just a terror. And it's all Vladimir Putin's fault. But the West has let down the world, right? They have no courage, they have no this. So, last little note. What does your future look like? It looks like this. So this is a Russian drone, and it's fighting a Ukrainian drone, right? So it's gonna crash into it. Why is this important? It looks pretty ominous. It looks pretty docile, this little scene. But this is the first time, as far as I could tell, two drones in a live war have had a little conflict. Now here it ended in a propeller, but over the course of your life, especially if you're young, drone versus drone warfare, it started right there, and it's going to grow into something insane. Missiles are expensive, drones are cheaper, and explosives are cheaper, and then one day, starting from this, the skies will be covered with drones battling each other until, with productivity and this and that. This is what's going on in the world. It's a very, very dark time. And will Putin use nukes? Yes, he will, if he's backed further and further into a corner. Russia's economy is on the tatters, is about to crumble to a certain extent. Ukraine has been set back 20, 30 years. While we're over here, I've still got my hand sanitizer. I've still got my jar full of candy. My life is okay. But that woman and all those people in Ukraine, their lives are destroyed. Why? Because the West was weak. Putin saw it, and he was a savage beast. So you got weakness and savagery mixed in, leads to destruction and the beginnings of a chapter of extraordinary warfare in the 21st century that's almost inevitable.